the way you have a conversation is so important here. You can't have a conversation with somebody and say, you do this or you don't do this, and you don't show me love, and I do this for you, and I do this and this and this, but you don't do anything for me. If you go into the conversation like that, they're just gonna say the same shit back. And not for nothing, that's probably not your first rodeo with this type of stupid argument. But if you're in that sort of situation, the best thing for you to do is to have a positive conversation and take responsibility in that conversation. That helps a lot, taking responsibility when you're asking them to maybe work on something that they're doing. This is the example I actually just heard on the Jocko podcast with Jordan Peterson. He talks about how one of his clients, he was talking about him, when she gets home from work, her husband's just laying on the couch and he doesn't get up and greet her and say hi or whatever. He just keeps watching TV and it hurts her feelings. And so instead of her trying her same old attempt, which is, why don't you get up? You don't love me. Every time you come home, I get up for you. Like bickering and bitching. You think he's going to want to listen to you? Why the fuck would he want to listen to you? All you're doing is bitching at him, right? You're not actually communicating. It's not you and him against the problem. It's you versus him. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode number... I don't know what episode number it is. Okay, cut this out, Cal. First of all, hi, Cal. What's up, baby? How you doing? I know you're editing this right now. Conscious cast. Conscious cast. Conscious cast. 325 subscribers. You're being weird. All right. Episode 44. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to episode number 40. God damn it. 44 of the Conscious Cast. Back with your friendly neighborhood, Jason Scalora. From the Jason Scalora Show. The Jason Scalora Show, hosted by the Jason Scalora. Oh, that's me. It is what it is, honestly. Anyways, so I am not the one editing this video. Callahan Borst will be the host of the Conscious Cast. So who knows how this is going to turn out. Maybe he'll make me look funny. Maybe he'll make me look stupid, whatever. But Cal is on a wonderful vacation in Montana. There are some lovely clips on that. He just posted one, actually, with my voice on it. That video was amazing. However, today we're talking about relationships. Wow. It's so amazing. So we have a couple questions sent in from a couple of different people, actually. And I haven't even looked at them, to be honest. I kind of scanned them, but I really haven't read into them too much. So we're just going to riff from them and go from there. How far are we in? 7:57. Wonderful. All right. First question. Is it a bad thing to be single? You know, it's a very interesting question. And it depends. Most of these answers, if it's questions like that, the answer is going to be, it depends. Is it bad to be single? It really just fucking depends. Like, I can't tell you if it's a bad thing or if it's not a bad thing, right? Is it bad if you're single and you're 45? Maybe. Is it because you're 45? No. It's probably because by this point in your life, you probably should have enough things sorted out, your emotional maturity sorted out, things figured out to a certain extent where the norm would be for you to have a relationship, right? People die, people get divorced, shit happens. That's why I'm saying it's so case dependent. I'm not saying it's specific to anything or anybody. But it really just depends on the situation, right? It's not bad to be single. So objectively, no, it's not bad. But if you want a relationship and you can't seem to find one, you got to look at a bunch of different things. 1, are you actually looking for a relationship? 2, are you ready for a relationship? 3, are you hung up on some random person that you have been wishing that they would, settle for you, or not settle for you, they would finally settle down with you, but it's not happening, so you're wishing on a dream that you could be in a relationship. So maybe in that case, it's a good thing you're not in a relationship because you're probably not ready. But again, it's such a case-dependent question. So I would say objectively, the answer is no. It's not bad to be single, but it really just depends the position that you're in, and looking at yourself objectively and figuring out where you could be possibly going wrong, where you're not getting or attracting the relationships that you want to have. Right? That's the underlying idea here. Next question. What should I do if others are shaming me for being single? Again, not a very cookie-cutter answer, but there's a little more to work with here with this question. So first of all, if people are shaming you for being single, the first thing that you got to think about is, why are they shaming you, right? First of all, Is it nice? Probably not. Can you use it? Almost definitely, right? If people are shaming you for things that you're actually fucking up on, it's probably a good time to take a look at wherever the fuck you should be taking responsibility. If your friends are making fun of you because you can't hold a relationship for more than 6 months and you're just bouncing from guy to guy or from girl to girl, it's probably time to take a look at yourself, right? Why are you attracting these shitty people into your life? Are you settling for people? Do you have low sense of self-worth? Do you have insecurities that you're not working on, that you're sweeping under the rug? Like, there's a bunch of things that you can work on here, right? Objectively, people making fun of you for being single, if you're single, is not a nice thing. I'm not going to advocate for bullying. All I'm saying is if people are shaming you for it, think about why. Maybe you write it off. Maybe you do, right? If people are shaming you and they're just spewing bullshit at you or just making fun of you without any context or without any facts behind what they're saying, then just fucking write it off. Like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe you're hanging around people that you shouldn't be hanging around. Maybe that's the real problem here. But in most cases, I would say, look a little deeper into that. There's probably something you can use to improve yourself, improve your life if you're single and you don't want to be single and they're shaming you for it. So that's what I would tell someone in that situation. Question number 3. Should I get in a relationship just to satisfy my friends, family, and the like? No. Okay. Next question. Okay. I'll elaborate a little bit. Should I get into a relationship just to satisfy my friends, family, and the like? No. Fear of judgment is all ego. That's all it is. And not for nothing, when you get in those relationships are going to suck because you're going to settle because you don't care about the relationship. You don't care about the person. You care about judgment from others. But that's rooting from insecurity, not because of the relationship, right? That's like looking at the leaves of the tree because they're dying and being like, oh my God, let's paint them green. No, you're not watering the fucking tree. It's not getting sunlight. Maybe the soil's bad, right? Look at the root of it. The root of it's your insecurity. The problem isn't the fact that you don't have a relationship. The problem is you're afraid of judgment, right? And I don't care if you have pressures. Like, yes, they suck. It sucks to have parents that are like, you should have a relationship. Why don't you have a girlfriend? Why don't you have a boyfriend? Like, I get that, and I've seen it. But if you're going to get into a relationship just to satisfy the temporary need and desire to not feel judged from somebody, whether it's your parents, your friends, or whoever, then it's going to just, you're just trading off problems, right? You're now trading off, okay, well, I won't feel that judgment anymore, but now I'm going to have a terrible relationship with somebody. And you're going to miss all these potential opportunities of meeting somebody you would actually enjoy being in a relationship with. And maybe you just need some time to work on yourself so that you can actually be ready for a relationship. There's a bunch of things that are playing into this, but like, don't trade off your fear of judgment for a shitty relationship because you just want one, right? If your fear of judgment goes away because you actually find a good relationship, good, but also you should probably it's probably not a cause and effect relationship here, right? So what I'm getting at is, if you're going to get into a relationship with somebody, you should already be confident. You should already have self-love, self-respect, right? And when you have self-respect, you're not going to be the type of person that's going to care about your mom or dad or friend or family's opinion that you're single or not, because you have self-respect, right? So it's not going to affect you, right? So it's kind of like a 2 birds with 1 stone sort of thing. Not really. That's a bad analogy. No, a better way of saying it is just like, those things are going to just be correlated. The type of person who's going to be ready for a healthy relationship is also the same type of person that's not going to be afraid of the judgment or feel pain from the judgment of their parents or family or friends or whatever. So yeah. No, the answer is no. Next question. Actually, I can use a little. Ooh, that sounds gross. Pete that Joel in. That's fire. If I get into a relationship without knowing I am doing it just to satisfy my friends, and I don't like the person I'm with, what should I do? Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I translated it for you. You're welcome. So basically, the question is saying, if I get in a relationship with somebody, but I'm unaware of the fact that I'm doing it just to satisfy my friends, and I don't actually like the person I'm in a relationship with, What do you do? Well, in this scenario, the answer is nothing because you don't actually know. This is a hypothetical that's you can't really explain anything to them to. It's like if you don't know why you're in a relationship with that person, you don't know that the reason why you're in that relationship with that person rather is because you just want to satisfy your friends, which I'm assuming feel good, feel significant. Maybe you're getting a relationship with somebody who's really good looking, and so you can walk around the lunchroom or whatever and be like, yeah, that's my girlfriend, right? She's really hot, right? But then go home and argue for 4 hours on FaceTime. It's like, teach their own, pick your battles. But at that point, again, it's the same thing as the last question. Because ultimately I can't really answer that. Like if you don't know why, if you don't know the problem's there, you can't solve the problem. You know what I mean? If you don't know it's there or won't acknowledge it's there or whatever, I got nothing for you. But if you do figure out that you're in a relationship with someone just because of a need for significance, I would just be honest with yourself. You don't actually like the person you're with. You got to pick your evils, right? And a lot of times this comes up with everybody. In all situations, not even relationships, right? But in this example, it's like, don't assume that staying in a relationship with that person is a zero-sum path, right? Because a lot of times we assume that through inaction, right? So in this case, if you're saying, I'm going to stay with this person I don't like, right? Just because it's comfortable and I'm used to it and I don't want to go through the discomfort of breaking up with them or having this uncomfortable conversation or admitting to myself where I'm flawed or all these things and those are a bunch of demons, I'll give you that. But like, people subconsciously or consciously assume that inaction equals zero, right? Inaction equals nothing. But that's not the case, right? There's a lot of pain in inaction, and there's a lot of pain of action. But there's pain on both paths. There's pain if you stay in the relationship with somebody you don't like, and there's pain if you break up with them and have that uncomfortable conversation and admit where you're wrong. There's pain in both places. I got nothing for you. Sucks. It does. It really does. But you have to dispense with this idea that there's some pain-free path with fucking rainbows and butterflies. It doesn't exist. It's going to suck either way, especially after you're in the situation. You just got to pick which devil you want to deal with. And I think the answer here is fairly obvious. Unless it's not, then I guess figure it out. Next set of questions. So these, I think, are a little more situational based, I guess, but we'll see where they are. All right. First, this is more so a comment than a question, but it says, tips on how to address disagreements so they don't lead into arguments. Now, I like this, actually, because I'm a big fan of not using the term arguments as a broad term, because I think a lot of times, especially in relationships, if you're in a relationship with somebody for even a month or even a week, like, you're going to have a disagreement. Like, you're a human. Everybody's different, as cliche as it sounds. You're going to disagree on things. So it's going to come up, whether you're talking about it or whatever, right? But just because you're disagreeing doesn't mean you have to argue, right? You can have a conversation like two emotional fucking adults, or you can get into a heated argument, say shit you don't mean, do shit you didn't want to do, and then now you have all these fucking bridges burned and shit's hitting the fan because you have the emotional maturity of a 6-year-old. But again, you can have disagreements without having arguments. That's a huge tangent. I didn't even answer the question. Tips on how to address disagreements so they don't lead into arguments. First tip, my favorite one, separate. When you feel the emotion boiling, when you feel it, you're like, like you want to fucking fight it out, give yourself some time. You don't need to hash it out right this second. You don't. And I know a lot of people aren't going to like that because a lot of people are big believers in, no, we're going to figure out right here, right now. We're not going to leave this situation without thinking about it. Or I hear this all the time. I can't go to sleep with this problem. I'm like, I get that. And I like the philosophy. I understand it. But I completely disagree with it. You need to let the emotion die down. You need to let the dust settle sometimes so that you can actually have a conversation instead of getting into some stupid argument and creating an even bigger problem than you would have had if you had slept on it and came back to it tomorrow, right? I'm not saying never address it. Obviously, I don't agree with that, but I'm saying a lot of times sleeping on it's a good thing. Get your own space away from that person for a bit. Think about it. Think about where you went wrong. I'll get into that in a second, but a lot of times you need this space to yourself, right? And you got to dispense with the idea that you can't go to bed with an unsolved issue, right? You're still solving the issue. This is just a step in the process. If that's how you need to view it, that's how you should view it, because this is a step in the process, which is letting the emotion die down so you can have a conversation with the person so you don't say anything fucking stupid, right? Emotions are real and they're raw. And when they're strong and you're arguing, especially about things that you strongly disagree on, you need to separate so that you don't do anything fucking stupid and so that you can actually listen to the other person and admit where you're wrong. Because when you're in this angry, infuriated state, you just feel the red hot flame of the fucking argument. You're not going to admit where you're wrong. You're not going to want to make things better. And the argument is going to turn into me versus you, not you and I versus the problem. Trying to make things better. Trying to compromise or whatever it is, right? So take your time away from each other. The second thing is you have to accept the fact that it's going to be annoying. It's going to be so annoying, right? Because I don't care what the argument's about. I genuinely do not care. Take it to the extreme. I always get roasted about this in the comment sections because people don't like it. They don't. But take it to the extreme. I don't care what the situation is. When you're taking that time to reflect on whatever's going on, take full responsibility for the problem and figure out how in any way, shape, or form that you could have contributed to this issue. Even if it's 1%, 0.5%, a millionth of a percent, right? 99.9999% their fault. But you're 0.0001% at fault here. Okay, that's fine. Think about it. Figure out where you're 0.1% at fault, even though it's fucking never 0.1%, but whatever. Figure out where you're at fault and accept the fact that it's not going to feel good. It's not. That's why this is my second tip, is accept that it's going to be very annoying when it's time to reflect, right? It's not a fucking amazing journey that you're going to love to think about. Your mind is going to be like, no, fuck them. They did this and this and this. She said that. He did this. He went over there. Like, that's all you're going to want to do because it's easier to place blame than it is to take responsibility, right? But just because it's easier doesn't mean that's what's going to help you, right? Because you want to fix the fucking problem, right? Unless you don't want to fix the fucking problem, then I guess to each their own. But yeah, accept that it's going to be annoying, right? So take time apart and accept that things are going to be annoying and accept that responsibility, right? So I'd say that's the third piece. It kind of ties into the second one. Accept full responsibility, right? Because if you're in a relationship with somebody and you have an issue, which all relationships do, and you take no responsibility, nothing will ever get better, ever. I don't care what the problem is. I don't care what the problem is. You can't solve a problem between two people with one person. You can't. That was 4. You can't solve a problem between two people with one person. You can't. You just can't. And to think that you can blame everything on the other person, no matter what the problem is fucking delusional. It's actually delusional. And that's probably a really, really good sign that you're actually not ready for a relationship, because that's the biggest sign of emotional immaturity, is the lack of responsibility when things go south. All right, next question. Next one. I like this one. Ways to help define the type of person you strive to be/want. So the answer is actually sort of in the question. I'm assuming the question really means, how do you figure out who do you want to be with, right? How do you figure out who you want in a relationship, what that person looks like? And honestly, my favorite way of doing this, I actually have my notebook right here. I can show you. I love this notebook. It says, you can't read it, it's backwards. It says, the only impossible journey is the one you never begin. Tony Robbins. It's a little corny, but I like it. It's my journal. Anyways, what I did, this is a Tony Robbins idea, not my idea, but I stole it, and it fucking works. Trust me, it works. It's annoying, but it fucking works. What he does, he said in an interview, he said, the way I figured out who I needed to have in a relationship, right? The way I figured out how to correctly identify who I want to have as a partner in my relationship was the following. And he said, he went in his notebook and he said he actually wrote it on a map on a train, but that's the point. And he made 2 lists. And the first list was everything that he could ever want in a woman. At all. Anything. As specific as you can get. And he said he wrote for like an hour. Like he literally wrote down like fucking 1,000 things, right? And he just kept writing and writing and writing. It was like, and he got so specific. Like it was great. Like this person probably doesn't even exist, right? You can go as broad of, I want them to be honest and trustworthy and funny, right? To as specific as blonde hair, 5'2.5", and specific features or personality traits or values or likes this or plays sports or whatever. Literally everything you can think of. Everything. It's like a brainstorming activity. And after a while, I did this, and after a while, you just start to riff. You start to go. You get in the flow state, and you just keep writing and writing and writing and writing and writing. And eventually, you're going to get to a point where like, all right, I think that's it, right? You're gonna have enough things to the point where like, all right, I got a lot. For me, I wrote down, I think like maybe a couple hundred. So here's my list. You can't see, it's not focusing, but it's the do's on this side and the don'ts on this side, which I'll get to in a second. But anyways, after you write down that whole list, go back through and check off the ones that are absolute musts. Like absolute make or breaks, meaning let's say you write down 1,000 things. 1,000 things. If they don't have this one, relationship's over. I don't care if you have 999 of these other traits. I can't be in a relationship with you because you're missing this one thing. And there are things like that, right? So like, for example, one of mine is honesty. Fairly obvious, but like the truth, right? You're like, oh shit. Like, I don't care how good looking you are. I don't care how nice you are. I don't care how hardworking you are. If you're a liar, I can't have a relationship with you. I can't. I just can't. Here's another one. Encourages me to be better, right? That's another one. Another one is respectful and kind, right? So cliche and not like, but like, you know what I mean? Like puts themselves first, values growth, puts in effort into the relationship, takes care of themselves. Like these are things that are absolute make or breaks. And then you make a second list, right? And the second list is very, very similar, but it's the things that you don't want. And most of those things are going to overlap and be the exact opposites, right? So like, I don't want a liar, and I'm also valuing someone who's honest, right? And I don't want someone who's like this, so I also like someone who's like, I don't want somebody who doesn't have good hygiene, but I also want somebody who takes care of themselves, right? So most of them are going to be like that, but you're going to find a couple of them where there's a hole in it, right? And so it doesn't exactly translate to the do's and the don'ts. So it's very helpful to make that second list, but definitely make that first one. Definitely make that first one. That's my favorite way to figure it out. And tangibly, right? The way to think about it, you're like, okay, I have this list now. What the fuck do I do with it? The best time to look at it is during the honeymoon phase, right? So let's say you're in the talking phase of a relationship or a pre-relationship, and before, you're going to make things official or whatever, actually start dating them, going out with them or whatever. You know them enough to kind of gauge where things are going. This is the time to look at the list. Because at this point in time, you are the most vulnerable to make stupid fucking mistakes, right? Because love is a crazy emotion. Infatuation is a crazy feeling to have, right? Because it puts blinders on your fucking face, right? It puts on these, like, imagine like glasses or like, I'm trying to think of like 3D glasses, but imagine like glasses that block out anything that's the color red. So everything you see around, right, is just normal. And you're like, huh. Everything's great. Or better yet, imagine like the blue lights that you can shine in hotel rooms and you see all the fucking nasty shit on the walls and on the bed and shit, right? Imagine that's reality, right? And this is your blue light, right? That's a much better analogy. Imagine this is your blue light, right? And so you can look at the room. The room looks amazing. It looks so well done up, and the hangers are all put in the right spot, and the curtains look beautiful, and the bathroom's so clean and sparkly and shiny. It's great. AKA, you love this person. She's the best. She works out. She's inspiring. She's amazing, right? But then you're like, oh, but there's the blue light. You know it's there, but you don't want to shine on that because like things are going so great, and plus she's probably fine, right? No. Don't trust that shit. The honeymoon phase will make you ignore all the fucking red flags that could be in your face the whole time. Use this as your UV light. I promise you there's going to be a lot of times you're going to be like, fuck. God damn it. You're going to realize, oh shit, this person actually doesn't take care of themselves. Or maybe they're not honest. Or maybe they don't have this value or whatever. But the list is going to make you be so objective about it that your emotions have to be removed because it's on the piece of paper. Like it's there. You can't overlook it or pretend like it's there, right? And you can't ignore the red flags when they're written down and in front of your face. It's the same thing as UV light. The hotel room might look so fucking beautiful and perfect, and then you walk in there with the UV light and you see there's fucking pee stains on the fucking bed or whatever, and you're like, God damn it, you know what I mean? You don't want to sleep on a pissy bed, do you? Unless you do, then to each their own, I guess. But do you know what I mean? So make the fucking list. The list is, it's worked me magic. Oh my gosh, absolutely magic. Next question. I feel like my standards are too high. What do I do? So, much like the other answers to the first 2 or 3 questions, I think. I don't even know at this point. But much like those answers, it's very, very case dependent. There's not like some cookie cutter answer, but I can give you situational answers that I'm assuming would be the catalyst to make these questions come up. I feel like my standards are too high. What do I do? Right? So in some cases, your standards might just be too high, right? So like the list we just talked about, maybe you're not going to get into a relationship with somebody unless they cross everything off that list. Okay, you just stay single forever. Like people aren't perfect, you know what I mean? But chances are usually the type of people they're like, well, I just have such high standards, you know, for people. Excuse me. I just have such high standards for people. I don't settle. I don't settle for anybody. You know, I don't settle. You're looking for a unicorn, ma'am, or man, and they don't exist. People are flawed. People suck sometimes. People are annoying sometimes. We all got shit going on. We all got baggage. That doesn't mean don't have standards. That doesn't mean just fucking go date anybody that's on the street. But you know what I mean? If you want perfection, you're delusional. But in most cases, I would say, when people say they have too high of standards, typically that's a cop-out for not wanting to work on themselves. And let me explain. Because a lot of people, at least when I hear this is what it appears like, and this is what I've eventually uncovered with some people, is that when they're like, oh, my standards are just so high, it's a cop-out because they don't want to do the self-improvement work that's needed so that they can attract the right person into their life because they're not worthy of them yet, right? So if someone's super overweight and they say, I just have really high standards for who I want to have in a relationship, you know, I want somebody who's in really good shape. Excuse me. That doesn't make any sense. Exactly. That's such a tangible way of thinking about it, right? And usually that exact example probably doesn't happen all too often. But you get what I'm saying. Is a lot of times that's a cop-out for not wanting to work on yourself. And it's like a skewed way of being like, no, I just have high standards. That's why I don't have a relationship with anybody because I'm not willing to settle. Where it's like, yeah, but you're kind of fucked up too, aren't you? So like, it's kind of weird for you to have high standards, such high standards for somebody when you don't even have high standards for yourself, right? And not for nothing, the type of people that you claim are the only people you would be willing to settle down with, like because they're the ones that would meet your standard, are people that are not going to settle for you, right? And so that's typically just a cop-out. But if your standards are too high, I would make the list. Check off the things that are absolute musts, and then look for that person. Here's another thing. Forgot to mention this. Side note, once you make this list, the list of everything that you want in a partner, and go back through and check off the things that are absolute musts, that absolute standards that you need in a relationship, once you make that list, you need to take a look and make sure that you embody every single one of those traits to a T. To a fucking T. Because you will never, ever attract somebody into your life that meets all of those standards if you don't meet all of those standards first. You can't. You can't. That's how the law of attraction works. That's how life works. If you're not going to settle for somebody like that, who's below that standard, why would they? I'll tell you what, they won't. They won't. And if they do, they'll learn quickly that they were ignoring red flags, right? Especially if they're a person that holds themselves to a high standard. People that are self-confident and have self-respect don't settle for people that don't have self-respect and don't have self-love. They don't, because those relationships suck. It's the truth. Next question. We'll do this as a last question, actually, because I think we've been rolling for a bit now. I feel like I'm always going out of my way to do things for my significant other, and they don't reciprocate it. In parentheses, different love languages could be talked about here. I feel like I'm always going out of my way to do things for my significant other, and they don't reciprocate it. So I'm assuming you're asking, what do you do? You have a conversation. I mean, but the way you have a conversation is so important here, right? You can't have a conversation with somebody and say, you do this or you don't do this, and you don't show me love, and I do this for you, and I do this and this and this, but you don't do anything for me, right? If you go into the conversation like that, they're just going to say the same shit back. And not for nothing, that's probably not your first rodeo with this type of stupid argument, right? But if you're in that sort of situation, the best thing for you to do is to have a positive conversation, right? And take responsibility in that conversation. That helps a lot, that I find as well, taking responsibility when you're asking them to maybe work on something that they're doing, right? So for example, let's say, this is the example I actually just heard on the Jocko podcast with Jordan Peterson. He talks about how one of his clients, he was talking about him, and he said that when her husband gets home from work, when she gets home from work, sorry, I'm stupid. When she gets home from work, her husband's just laying on the couch, and he doesn't get up and greet her and say hi or whatever. He just keeps watching TV, and it hurts her feelings. And so instead of her trying her same old attempt, which is, why don't you get up? You don't love me. Every time you come home, I get up for you. Like bickering and bitching. Like, you think he's going to want to listen to you? Why the fuck would he want to listen to you? All you're doing is bitching at him, right? You're not actually communicating. It's not you and him against the problem. It's you versus him. And you're just saying, you're stupid, and you're always like this, and you always will be like this, and fuck you. What do you think he's going to say? He's going to say, fuck you. And you're going to be like, you shouldn't have said fuck you. But it's like, no. Go into that conversation saying, hey, maybe I could be more loving and appreciative of you. Maybe I could be doing more to make this relationship better, right? Maybe there's X, Y, and Z that I could be doing. But when I come home from work, I would really appreciate it if you could just get up for 1 second and give me a hug. And then you can get back down, right? And then from there, after you have the conversation, even if he says yes, like, yes, I'll do that, I'll work on it, I'll be better. And then you come home and he does it again, and he doesn't come up and give you a hug, and he keeps watching TV. Don't bitch at him. Even still, people are human beings. You have to let them make mistakes and be like, hey, I'm not going to bitch at you like I used to, but I just want to remind you that, it would mean a lot to me if you just got up and said hi to me when I get home from work, And I know sometimes I fuck up, and even when I say I'm going to do something too, like, this is a no blame game. I just would really appreciate if you could do that, right? And genuinely communicate in a way where it's not you versus him, or you saying you're such a fucking loser or whatever. It's genuinely an attempt to make the relationship better, because then it'll be you and them versus the problem, not you versus them. And that's the key to figure out any sort of issue inside of any relationship. Those are the questions for today. I kind of like this episode. I like the setup here. I mean, it's a little bougie, it's a little unbougie here in the Scalora household. But thank you for tuning in to episode number 44 of the Conscious Cast with Jason Scalora. Jason Scalora. Cal is editing this, not me, so it's kind of funny. So I'm just gonna make him do random shit, right? Like, look, there's a bird. There's a plane. Whatever. Yeah, if you could check out the other episodes of the Conscious Cast. Episode 43 was a solo banger by Callahan Borst himself, and then he posted one of the videos of actually my audio of some clips from him in Montana, which are absolutely fucking beautiful. So go check that out. Check out the Jason Scalora Show on Spotify and YouTube. My @ is Jason Scalora, JASONSCALORA, on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. That's it for me. Conscious Cast member signing out. Peace.